Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Reza Rahman, and he's president and co-founder over at Ava. Reza, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam, and thank you for having me.
All right, Reza. So we got a lot to talk about today. So I definitely want to get into Ava and what you're doing to really reinvent and I should say build a credit tool that's going to help dismantle the Catch-22, where essentially you need credit to get credit in this country. So I'm excited to get into that and more. And also, I want to start, though, before we get directly into Ava. I see the term here, co-founder, entrepreneur. Have you always been an entrepreneur? Like, where'd that come from?
No, actually, this is my first shot at taking a bet on myself. But I've worked in Silicon Valley. I've worked in various corporations. And, it was in the middle of the pandemic and COVID when a couple of me and my friends said, you know what? Let's take a bet on ourselves and let's go do something ourselves. And off we went.
Wow, what a story! And so, how did take me back? And because you've been in that area, obviously you have skills, and you could do many different things in the tech or otherwise sector, especially when it comes to an entrepreneurial venture. Like, how did this idea become sticky enough for you to to attack it?
Yeah, I would say, it starts with my background. I'm a first generation immigrant. I went. Getting good grades and getting into good schools was a requirement from my parents. And so went to good schools, got a great job, worked in Silicon Valley. I worked in very, well-known fintech and tech companies. That said, like many in my generation, I never grew up with an inappropriate kind of amount of financial literacy. I didn't even know what a credit score was until I was, 22 years old. And I had to apply for my first apartment. And also I saw firsthand, how complex finance is. I had, applied for my first mortgage, at some point, in the past, credit cards, I had student loans, but I didn't really understand finance. And I realized that most people actually don't. And along at the same time, consumer debt is at the highest levels ever in our nation's history. People are drowning in debt in this country. And I actually thought this would be a really worthwhile problem to go tackle. I was passionate about finance at the same time, passionate about tech, and then passionate about solving a problem that was worth solving. And that's why I started Ava with two of my close friends. And we are basically working on helping every American get to the best credit score they deserve, access the financial products they need, and pay the least amount of interest and fees as possible, and do it in a very simple, transparent, and friendly way to actually do it.
So I get the finance part, and it's complicated, but a lot of different angles you could have went at in terms of trying to help with finance in this country. How did you settle on credit? Like, where'd that come from?
It really came from I was looking at where are the biggest problems to go solve. And I think we don't, being in Silicon Valley, being in the tech capital of this country and in fact the world, there's always this impetus, let's go solve big problems. And it kind of baffles me that, some entrepreneurs are thinking about how do we get to Mars, but nobody's really thinking about how do we tackle this persistent, painful problem of debt. In this country, and the fact that middle class America is actually drowning in debt and it's not getting better; it's only getting worse.
Yeah. So so now you get to this idea of credit. Now, what makes you, like, as you're going through and you're going through the idea process, like, how did you come up with the idea for Ava specifically, and like, what made you think, I can help solve this problem or I can help improve the system? Like, what made you think that piece?
Yeah. It really came down to one very simple piece of knowledge that we've gathered, me and my co-founders gathered over time, which is it is not the problem, it's not the people's fault for the most part. It is a system that is designed to keep things, not transparent, to devise a system where people just get into more debt. And the existing power players, the big banks and financial institutions, are not incented to help people have lower interest rates because they make less money. And so for us, it was like we realized it was a system problem, not a people problem.
Yeah.
And that was the intuition that yes, we can actually go solve this because helping people and actually getting, especially when it comes to consumer products, we had the background to help people make the right decisions, to build elegant and easily usable products that people can use every day and actually tackle their problems. And that is the big, important intuition and insight that we had that got us on this journey.
I want to, and I do want to go into the user experience and how Ava works exactly. I do want to go into that, but before we do, I want to maybe just take one step back and let's talk a little bit more about the overall problem and that you're looking to address. Because I don't want to assume, because yourself, for example, you mentioned maybe you didn't have the best understanding of credit until you were already applying for loans or mortgage, things like that, and maybe some people don't understand like that there's a whole population just like yourself and just like myself. Like my parents didn't really know much about credit growing up, even though my dad was a small business owner, but he didn't really know finance. He was never looking to scale his business. It was a small business and he was fine with that. So maybe go into just the problem that you were looking to address a little bit more as it exists today.
Yeah. So at its core, the U.S. financial system is built to reward people who already have history in it. So if you're new to the country or if you're operating outside the traditional banking system, you can be doing everything right and still be invisible. Yeah. And the system doesn't really ask, hey, are you good with money? It basically asks, have you played this specific game long enough? And traditional banks rely heavily on...
Can you give an example of that? Just real quick, can you give an example of that? I just want to make sure I understand that. So it's like when you say traditional banking, it's mean like literally going to open a bank account, get a credit card. Is that what you mean? I just want to make sure we're clear.
Exactly. Credit card, open a bank account. They look at
and the reason I ask that so directly is because I think some people take that for granted, like they just think, oh, everybody can go do that, but it's not true.
That's not true because there are millions of people who are unbanked. There are millions of immigrants who don't have a credit file and they can't get access to credit. So, the system is built around you need to have credit to get credit, as I mentioned earlier. And for example, if you want to get a loan, a personal loan, they will look at your credit file. Well, if you're a new immigrant to this country, you don't have a credit file. And you can have the best job in the world. I know people who went to Harvard Business School who came from as international students. They're like, I couldn't get a credit card. They didn't know who I was, right? It's ridiculous. And the person was making like six figures, right? So the system is really built around...
And to juxtapose that, like in the past, like if you were born here and if you have your normal like path of, or I shouldn't say normal, but a traditional, just what it's like is maybe when you were in college, your parents, if it like got you your first credit card and maybe you were on that credit card with them, or maybe it was your first one and it had a small, dollar amount, and now now you're in the system when it doesn't, like, it's not like you're trying to go get a mortgage or you're trying to get, even a car necessarily. You're building your credit without maybe even knowing it by having that low credit card and going through the system in that manner. Is that right? I just want to make sure.
Exactly. So it is a function of the system. Either you're in the system or you're outside of the system. And I believe that that's fundamentally unfair because you don't choose what system you are born into.
Yeah.
You don't choose that your parents were first-generation immigrants versus somebody who went to the same school but had parents who added them to their credit card, and they started building credit history when they were 15 years old.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, that is fundamentally unfair. And the system is built, and these systems are rigid. It's not, nefarious. It's just not built for flexibility. It is not built for the future. And it's not built for humans. And that is really where the problem starts.
Great. I think it's a great transition. Let's get into Ava and kind of user experience and how Ava is helping address the problem. Let's go there.
Absolutely. And so what Ava does, we are a credit improvement app that provides credit building tools for those whose credit has been hurt, those who don't have credit because they're credit invisible, or any number of reasons that you want to improve or build your credit. And what we do is we give folks access to a credit building card, but you don't need a credit. You don't need a minimum credit score for that. We give you the ability to report your rent and utilities to the credit bureaus and establish credit history. And we do it like backward looking all the way back two years into the past and help you establish that credit history so that you can get credit for paying your rent, paying your utilities, paying your phone bill. And the credit bureaus all accept that. And they want more people to come out and be credit visible. It's just that the tools are not very easily accessible. And so we build those tools in the app. And then we have other ways to build your credit profile, like a secured loan. And if you start using these credit products, very quickly, our members, they pay a subscription fee to use our app. They start building credit history and they start getting a credit score. And with time, they get to a credit score that helps them do all kinds of things, like apply for credit cards, apply for personal loans. I've talked to many members who are like looking to buy their first home. And this is how we're helping people showcase their true credit worthiness, because the current systems are just not built to be able to do that.
Yeah. And what I think is interesting about this too is when you mentioned being able to go back 2 years for, let's just say, I guess, what's a good way to word this? Get credit for the good credit that you've been doing in terms of paying your rent, all the other things. And I think many people probably don't know that normally your rent, it's not going to be reported to the credit agencies and things like that. So even though it's not saying that you're not, it's just you're not in the system. And certain items that you've been paying for, like cars are normally paid. That's normally, I believe, recorded, things like that, but not your like you said, your phone bill or like some other things that you could get credit for based on you've been paying on time, right?
Yeah, and that's the sad part. Is there are a lot of responsible people out there who are stuck with high interest rates because the system just doesn't see the data that they need to see to give them the credit and access they need. And that's what we're really doing. We're not trying to make people who don't deserve credit get credit. It's just we're helping deserving people showcase their credit worthiness without jumping through hoops, simplifying it, and actually, frankly, treating them with empathy. We don't reject people because, your credit score is not high enough. Well, if you don't have credit, how will you have a credit score?
Yeah.
It's the classic example of like, to get your first job, you need experience. Well, if I don't have a job, how will I get experience? This is the cycle a lot of people are stuck in. And it's millions of people who are stuck in that. And that's what we're helping them get out of.
Amazing. Reza, this has been a lot of fun learning more about you, your background as an entrepreneur, and wishing you much more continued success and this idea for Ava and the fact that you're targeting to help many people get into the system in a good way so that they'll be credit, so that their credit, they have good credit and that they can build and live within and take advantage of a lot of opportunity that's out there for them. I just love the whole thing, because once we didn't get too much into this at all, but it keeps them out of the whole like predatory lending, like all these other like things that are out there that most people that are in the system for credit and that have these things don't even know exist. Like astronomical, like interest fees and things that people that like literally ruin people's lives when, at time if somebody's using this app or if they're getting into the system and even building their education on how credit works, like all these things are big wins. So big fan of what you're doing, Reza. That being said,
thank you.
How do people follow up? How do they learn more about Ava? How do they get information?
You can just come to our website, www.meetava.com, meetava.com, and you can sign up, learn about what we do, even reach out to our support team. We'll help you walk you through the product and what needs to be done.
Amazing. For everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is the first time with Mission Matters and you haven't hit the subscribe or follow button yet, I encourage you do it. Hit the subscribe or follow. This is a daily show. You heard me right. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow button. And Reza, man, appreciate all you're doing. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.